Starbase Meridian was unlike anything Velma had ever seen. The docking port alone was larger than some stations she had visited. As she walked through the corridors with Dr. Thelkor and her senior crew, she saw humans working alongside dozens of other species. The atmosphere was busy but organized, with everyone moving with purpose. A Veltheran technician approached them, wearing a human-style uniform. "Captain Velma? I'm Engineer Jinseo. I'll be overseeing your ship's repairs. Welcome to Meridian." Velma blinked in surprise. "You're Veltheran. Born on Velthar Prime, yes. I came here 5 years ago as part of an engineering exchange program. Liked it so much I decided to stay." Jinseo smiled at their shocked expressions. "I know what you're thinking. Why would a Veltheran choose to live in human space? Come on, I'll show you while we walk." He led them through the station, explaining as they went. Meridian was built 20 years ago as a joint venture between the Terran Defense Force and the Terran Commerce Guild. The goal was to create a hub where humans could trade and interact with other species. About 5 years in, other species started asking if they could set up permanent facilities here. They passed a marketplace where vendors from a dozen different species sold goods. Velma saw humans shopping alongside Quillans, Mersons, and even a few Veltherans. The interaction seemed natural, comfortable. No one looked afraid or hostile. "The Council says humans are dangerous," Dr. Thelkor said carefully. "They are dangerous," Jinseo agreed. "But so is fire, and we still use it for warmth and cooking. The question isn't whether something is dangerous. The question is whether it's dangerous to you specifically. Humans are dangerous to enemies and threats. To friends and allies, they're the most loyal species I've ever met." He brought them to a viewing window that looked out over the repair bays. The Whisper of Tides was already being worked on by teams of engineers. Velma noticed that the teams were mixed, humans and aliens working together seamlessly. "Your ship will be fully repaired in 4 days," Jinseo said. "We're replacing your FTL drive completely, upgrading your shield generators and reinforcing your hull in 3 critical areas. Captain Tejo's report indicated you were vulnerable to the type of weapons the Kryloth used. We're making sure that doesn't happen again." "We can't afford those kinds of upgrades," Velma said quietly. Jinseo looked confused. "Captain Tejo didn't tell you?" "The repairs are covered by the Terran Emergency Response Fund. When the TDF rescues a vessel, standard protocol is to ensure that vessel is safe before it leaves." "You're not paying for any of this." Velma felt tears forming in her eyes. "That's too much. We can't accept such generosity." "It's not generosity," Jinseo said gently. "It's responsibility. You were attacked while under our protection. That makes your safety our concern. Besides, the humans have a saying, pay it forward. They help you now, and maybe someday you'll help someone else who needs it." Dr. Thelkor asked the question that had been bothering him. "Why are you really here, Jinseo?" "The truth." The Veltharan engineer looked out at the repair bays, considering his answer. "Because the Council lied to us. Not maliciously, maybe, but they painted an incomplete picture of humanity. Yes, humans are from a death world. Yes, they're capable of extreme violence. But they're also curious, innovative, and incredibly welcoming to anyone who approaches them with good intentions." He turned to face them directly. "I came here expecting monsters. I found people. People who valued my skills, respected my culture, and treated me as an equal. I've learned more about engineering in 5 years here than I did in 15 years on Velthar Prime. Not because humans are smarter, but because they share knowledge freely. They believe that making everyone better makes the whole galaxy stronger." That afternoon, Velma received an invitation to dine with Captain Tejo. She found him in a small restaurant on the station's commercial level. It was a human establishment, but the menu included options for dozens of species. "Captain Velma, please sit," Tejo said, standing as she approached. "I wanted to talk with you before you continue your journey." They ordered food and sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Tejo spoke. "I need to tell you something. When we received your distress call, my crew was 3 minutes into a meal break. They dropped everything and ran to their stations. We went to full combat readiness in under 2 minutes. Do you know why? Because you're well trained?" "Because someone needed help," Tejo said simply. "We didn't know who you were. We didn't know if you were friendly or hostile to humans. All we knew was that someone was in trouble and we could reach them." That was enough. Velma looked down at her food. "Captain, I need to apologize. We avoided your territory for years. We believed the Council's reports that painted you as dangerous and unpredictable. We were wrong. You weren't wrong, Tejo said, surprising her. We are dangerous. Earth made us that way. Our world tried to kill us every single day. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, even the plants and insects were lethal. We survived by becoming tough, adaptable, and relentless. Those traits make us dangerous in combat. He paused, taking a drink before continuing. But Earth also taught us something else. When you live on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that survival depends on cooperation. You learn that helping your neighbor might save your own life someday. You learn that strength means nothing if you use it to hurt the weak instead of protecting them. The council doesn't mention that part, Velma said. No, they don't. And I understand why. We make them uncomfortable. We don't fit into the neat categories they've created for species. We're not aggressive conquerors, but we're not peaceful philosophers either. We're survivors who will fight when necessary and help when possible. That complexity frightens people. A human waiter brought their food. Tejo thanked him by name, and they exchanged a few words about the waiter's family. It was such a normal, casual interaction that Velma found herself smiling. You care about people, she observed. All people, Tejo confirmed. Human or not. That's another lesson from Earth. On our world, humans came in every color, every culture, every belief system. We spent thousands of years fighting over our differences. Eventually, we learned that our similarities were more important than our differences. When we reached the stars and met other species, we applied the same lesson. Yes, aliens are different from humans, but we're all people trying to survive and thrive in a dangerous universe. That makes us alike in the ways that matter. After dinner, Tejo walked Velma to the observation deck. Through the massive windows, they could see ships coming and going, a constant flow of traffic representing dozens of species and cultures. Captain Velma, I want to ask you something, Tejo said. When you return to Velthuran space, what will you tell people about humans? Velma thought carefully before answering. I'll tell them the truth. That humans are dangerous, yes, but that danger is directed at those who threaten the innocent. I'll tell them about soldiers who killed without mercy to protect my crew, then turned around and healed our wounded with infinite patience. I'll tell them about engineers who shared knowledge freely, and officers who treated us with respect even though we had avoided them for years. She looked at Tejo directly. I'll tell them that humans are the most complex species I've ever encountered, and that the galaxy is safer with you in it, not isolated from it. Tejo nodded slowly. Thank you. That's all we've ever wanted. Not fear, not worship, just understanding. The next 3 days passed quickly. Dr. Thelkor spent every waking hour with Dr. Sang-min, discussing xenobiology and comparative evolution. The two scientists worked together on research that neither could have completed alone, their different perspectives creating insights that excited them both. This collaboration could revolutionize xenobiology, Thelkor said to Velma on the final day. Sang-min's understanding of Deathworld evolution, combined with my knowledge of standard evolutionary patterns, creates a completely new framework for understanding species development. So you're not afraid of humans anymore? Velma asked with a slight smile. I'm terrified of humans, Thelkor said honestly, but now I'm terrified in the right way. I'm not afraid they'll hurt me. I'm afraid of the damage that misunderstanding them has done. I've spent years arguing for isolation. How many potential collaborations did I prevent? How much knowledge was lost because of my fear? Engineer Bora came to say goodbye to Telvor and the Velthuran engineering crew. She had spent days working alongside them, and genuine friendships had formed. You're always welcome back here, Bora said, hugging Telvor in the human fashion. And if you ever need help with anything, send a message. The engineering community takes care of its own, regardless of species. Lieutenant Kite brought gifts for the Velthuran crew members he had befriended. Small things mostly. Books about Earth, music recordings, photos of his home planet. But each gift was chosen carefully, personally, showing that he had paid attention to their interests and conversations. On the morning of their departure, Captain Tejo came aboard the Whisper of Tides for a final inspection. The ship looked better than it had when Velma first purchased it. The repairs had gone beyond fixing damage. The human engineers had upgraded systems, reinforced weak points, and improved efficiency throughout the The corridors of the Whisper of Tides were a disaster. Smoke filled the air. Damaged panels sparked and hissed. Bodies lay scattered where the Kryloth had fallen. Human soldiers moved through the wreckage, securing the ship section by section. Velma stood on her bridge, trying to process everything that had just happened. Less than an hour ago, she had been terrified of the Kryloth. Now she was terrified of her rescuers, though for completely different reasons. The humans moved with such casual efficiency that it was frightening. They checked every corner, cleared every room, and treated the wounded with the same practiced calm they had used while fighting. It was like watching two completely different species. One moment they were killing machines. The next moment they were medics and engineers. Major Hyunsik stood near the tactical console, coordinating his teams through his armor's communication system. He had left his helmet retracted, perhaps to seem less threatening. It didn't work. Even without the helmet, he was imposing. His armor added nearly a meter to his height and made him look indestructible. All sections secure, he reported to someone on the other end of his communication link. 17 hostile casualties. No human casualties. 3 Veltharan wounded being treated now. Yes, sir. Bringing the captain over now. He turned to Velma. Captain, my commander would like to meet you. Would you be willing to come aboard the Indomitable? Velma felt her throat tighten. Go aboard a human warship? Walk into the heart of Deathworlder territory? But she was the captain. This was her responsibility. Of course. Excellent. I'll arrange transport. We'll have medical teams standing by for your wounded, and engineers ready to assess your ship's damage. You don't have to do all that, Velma said. Hyunsik looked at her with what seemed like genuine confusion. Of course we do. You're under our protection now. 20 minutes later, Velma found herself in a human transport shuttle, traveling the short distance between ships. Dr. Thelkor had insisted on coming with her, though he looked like he might be sick at any moment. 2 human soldiers sat across from them, their armor still scorched from battle. One of them noticed Thelkor's distress. First time meeting humans, sir? She asked. Her name tag read Ludanyuna. Yes, Thelkor admitted. I've studied your species extensively, but I've never actually met one of you in person. Must be strange, Yuna said kindly. We probably look different than you expected. You look exactly like the reports described, Thelkor said. That's what frightens me, Yuna laughed. It was a warm sound, completely at odds with her intimidating armor. Fair enough. We can be pretty scary when we need to be. But right now you don't need to be afraid. We're the good guys in this situation. The shuttle docked with the Indomitable, and Velma stepped into a human warship for the first time in her life. The interior was nothing like she expected. The corridors were wide and reinforced, built to handle the high gravity humans preferred. The lighting was brighter than most species liked. Everything was designed with efficiency in mind rather than comfort or aesthetics. They passed human crew members in the corridors. Some wore armor. Others wore simple uniforms. All of them moved with purpose, going about their duties with quiet professionalism. A few nodded politely to Velma as she passed. No one stared or seemed hostile. The bridge of the Indomitable was massive. Dozens of stations filled the space, each one manned by focused crew members. At the center sat Captain Tejo. He was older than Velma expected, with gray hair and a weathered face. He stood when she entered, gesturing for her to approach. Captain Velma, welcome aboard. I'm Captain Tejo. This is Commander Jihai, my diplomatic officer. He indicated a woman standing nearby. She was smaller than the armored soldiers, but carried herself with quiet authority. Thank you for coming, Velma said. Thank you for saving us. No thanks necessary, Tejo said. You sent a distress call. We answered. That's what neighbors do. We're not neighbors, Velma said before she could stop herself. We deliberately avoided your territory. Tejo's expression didn't change. We know. You took the long route through the Keswick Nebula specifically to avoid passing through Terran space. You added 5 days to your journey and risked pirate attacks rather than spend a few hours in our territory. Velma felt shame wash over her. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend. You didn't offend us, Commander Jihai said gently. You made a choice based on the information you had. The Galactic Council classifies Earth as a Class 12 death world. They advise all species to minimize contact with humans. You were following official guidance. But you still came when we called, Velma said. Of course we did, Tejo replied. Distress calls don't have species requirements. Someone needed help. We were in range. End of discussion. Dr. Thelkor stepped forward hesitantly. Captain Tejo, I must confess something. I am Dr. Thelkor, I have written several papers arguing for continued isolation from human space. I have publicly stated that humans are too dangerous for close integration with galactic society. Tejo looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. I've read your work, Doctor. You make some valid points. Humans are dangerous. Earth did make us into something different from most spacefaring species. You're not angry? Thelkor asked. Why would I be angry? You're entitled to your opinions. And honestly, you're not wrong. We are dangerous. Earth taught us to be survivors, and survivors can be scary when threatened. Tejo paused. But here's what your papers don't mention, Doctor. Earth also taught us compassion. When you grow up on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn the value of helping each other. You learn that cooperation is survival. A human medic approached. Captain, requesting permission to bring Dr. Sang-min to the bridge. He'd like to examine the Velthoran wounded. Granted. Send him over to the Whisper of Tides with a full medical team. Commander Jihai pulled up a holographic display. Captain Velma, we've completed our initial assessment of your ship. Your FTL drive is damaged beyond field repair. Your main engines are at 30% capacity. Life support is stable but strained. We recommend escorting you to the nearest repair facility. How far? Velma asked. The closest non-human facility is Starbase Epsilon, 4 days away at your current speed. However, Starbase Meridian is only 2 days away. It's in Terran space, but it has the best repair facilities in this sector. Velma looked at Tejo. Would we be welcome at Meridian? Absolutely. Meridian services ships from dozens of species. We have Velthoran technicians on staff, actually. They came as part of a cultural exchange program 3 years ago and decided to stay. I didn't know humans had exchange programs with other species. Jihai smiled. Most people don't. The Council doesn't advertise our friendlier interactions. It doesn't fit the narrative they prefer. Over the next hour, Velma watched humans coordinate the rescue operation with impressive skill. Engineering teams transferred to the Whisper of Tides to stabilize critical systems. Medical teams treated the wounded with equipment that was more advanced than anything Velma had seen before. Dr. Sang-min, the human xenobiologist, worked on her injured crew with gentle hands and endless patience. At one point, Velma returned to her own ship to check on her crew. She found Dr. Sang-min working on her chief engineer, who had been badly hurt in the Kryloth attack. The engineer was conscious and talking quietly with the human doctor. The bone structure is fascinating, Sang-min was saying as he worked. Your species evolved a quadrupedal skeletal system that's incredibly efficient for your gravity level. And the way your cardiovascular system distributes oxygen is elegant. I'd love to write a paper about it someday if you'd be willing to participate in the research. The engineer, who had been terrified of humans just an hour ago, actually laughed. You want to study me? If you're interested. No pressure. But comparative xenobiology is my passion, and I rarely get to work with Velthorans up close. Sang-min finished bandaging the wound and sat back. There. That should hold until we get you to proper medical facilities at Meridian. You'll be back on your feet in no time. Velma watched the interaction with growing wonder. This human, who could probably break her engineer in half without effort, was treating him with genuine care and scientific fascination. There was no condescension, no aggression, just professional medical treatment and honest academic interest. Dr. Sang-min, Velma said, approaching. Thank you for helping my crew. He looked up and smiled. Just doing my job, Captain. Your people are lucky. These injuries look bad, but they're all treatable. Everyone's going to be fine. The Kryloth killed 3 of my crew, Velma said quietly. Sang-min's expression turned somber. I'm sorry for your loss. For what it's worth, the Kryloth who killed them won't be hurting anyone else. Velma nodded. She had seen the bodies in the corridors. The humans had been absolutely ruthless with the Kryloth. Not cruel but efficient. They had eliminated threats without hesitation or mercy. That was what made them frightening, she realized. Not that they were violent, but that they could switch between violence and compassion so easily. They could kill without emotion, then turn around and save lives with equal efficiency. They were exactly what the Council said they were, products of a death world. But the Council had left out important details. Yes, humans were dangerous. The sounds of cutting metal echoed through the corridors of the Whisper of Tides. Velma watched her security monitors as Kryloth warriors breached the outer decks. They were massive creatures built like walking tanks with thick armor plating, and weapons that seemed too large to be practical. But practical or not, those weapons were tearing through her ship. "Seal bulkhead 7, she ordered. "Reroute life support to core sections only. Make them work for every meter." Her crew obeyed without question, though Velma could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew what Kryloth did to their captives. The stories were told across the galaxy as warnings. "The Kryloth didn't just kill," they made examples. Dr. Thelkor stood near the back of the bridge, clutching his data cores like they were children. His research team had scattered to hiding spots throughout the ship when the attack began. Now he was alone with the bridge crew watching their last stand. "How long?" Thelkor asked quietly. Velma checked the countdown. 33 minutes. "They'll be inside the bridge in 15, her security officer said. "Maybe less." The monitors showed Kryloth warriors moving through the ship with terrible efficiency. They blasted through sealed doors, destroyed defensive positions, and killed anyone who resisted. 3 of Velma's crew were already dead. 5 more were wounded and hiding. An explosion rocked the bridge. The Kryloth had breached Bulkhead 7 faster than expected. They were adapting to the ship's defenses, learning the layout as they went. "Captain," the communication officer said, "I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the human fleet." Velma's heart jumped. "Put it through." A voice came over the speakers. It was deep, steady, and spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Feltherin vessel Whisper of Tides, this is Captain Tejo of the Terran defense ship Indomitable. We have your distress signal. We're coming in fast. How many hostiles are aboard your ship?" "At least 40 Kryloth warriors," Velma replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "They're cutting through our defenses. We can't hold them off much longer." "Understood. Hold your bridge position. We'll be there in 30 minutes. "Can you last that long?" Velma looked at her security monitors. The Kryloth were 3 corridors away from the bridge now. "We'll try." "Don't try," the human captain said. "Survive. That's an order. Use anything you have. Vent atmosphere, collapse corridors, whatever it takes. We're not letting you die today." The transmission ended. Velma stared at the speaker for a moment. The human's voice had been firm, almost gentle. There was no aggression in it, no judgment. Just absolute certainty that they would arrive in time. Dr. Thelkor moved closer to her. "Captain, are we making a mistake?" "The humans. What if they're worse than the Kryloth?" "Doctor, the Kryloth are currently killing my crew," Velma said sharply. "The humans are trying to save us. I know which one I prefer." Another explosion. Bulkhead 5 had fallen. The Kryloth were 2 corridors away now. Velma could hear their war cries echoing through the ventilation systems. They were celebrating their victory, confident that nothing could stop them. "Vent corridor 12, Velma ordered. "Dump the atmosphere." Her engineering officer hesitated. "Captain, we have crew in section 12. "They're already dead," Velma said quietly, checking her monitors. The section was filled with Kryloth. "Vent it now." The officer pressed the controls. Somewhere in the ship, emergency seals slammed shut and the corridor's atmosphere was expelled into space. The monitors showed Kryloth warriors scrambling as the air disappeared. Several were sucked toward the hull breach, their armor too heavy to resist the pull. Others managed to grab onto support beams, holding on until the venting stopped. It bought them 3 minutes. The Kryloth came back angrier than before. They abandoned caution and started blasting through walls, creating their own paths. The ship's structural integrity was failing. Warning alarms screamed across every console. 20 minutes, the communication officer said. Velma watched a group of Kryloth warriors set charges on the bridge door. This was it. Once that door fell, they would all die. She gripped her sidearm and tried to remember prayers from her childhood. Behind her, the bridge crew prepared themselves. Some held weapons, others simply held each other. Dr. Thelkor moved to stand beside Velma. "Captain, I want to apologize. For what?" "For arguing about the humans." "You were right. At least they answered our call." "They haven't saved us yet," Velma said. The charges on the bridge door began to glow red. The Kryloth were heating them, preparing for detonation. Velma raised her weapon, knowing it would do nothing against armored warriors, but needing to do something. Then everything changed. Every sensor on the bridge flared red simultaneously. The ship's computer started screaming warnings about massive energy signatures. Velma's tactical display lit up like a festival celebration. "Captain," her tactical officer shouted. "Multiple FTL signatures. Ships are dropping out of faster-than-light travel right on top of our position." "The humans?" "Confirmed. 6 ships. Terran configuration." On the main view screen, space itself seemed to tear open. 6 human warships materialized from nothing, appearing in a perfect formation around the Whisper of Tides. They were massive vessels, larger than any merchant ship Velma had ever seen. Their hulls were covered in armor plating that looked thick enough to stop small moons. Weapons bristled from every surface. The lead ship, the Indomitable, positioned itself directly between the Veltheran vessel and the Kryloth raiders. Then the humans opened fire. Velma had seen space battles before. She had watched military exercises and recorded conflicts, but she had never seen anything like this. The human ships didn't posture or threaten. They didn't demand surrender or give warnings. They simply started destroying the Kryloth fleet with terrifying efficiency. Kinetic weapons fired in precise volleys, punching through Kryloth shields like they weren't there. Energy beams cut across space, slicing into enemy hulls. Missiles streaked out in swarms, tracking targets with impossible accuracy. The humans fought like machines, each ship working in perfect coordination with the others. A Kryloth raider exploded on the view screen, then another. The remaining 3 raiders tried to run, but the human ships were faster. They pursued with relentless determination, their weapons never stopping. "Captain," her communication officer said, voice shaking. "We're being hailed. It's the humans. Put them through," Captain Tejo's voice returned. "Veltheran vessel, this is Indomitable. We're sending boarding teams to clear your ship. Keep your bridge sealed. We'll take care of the hostiles." "Understood," Velma managed to say. On the security monitors, she watched as human boarding pods launched from the warships. They attached to the Whisper of Tides hull with magnetic clamps. Cutting torches flared to life, opening entry points. Then the humans came aboard. They moved in powered armor that made them look like walking fortresses. Each suit was twice the size of a normal person, covered in weapons and armor plating. The humans inside moved with practiced efficiency, clearing corridors with ruthless speed. The Kryloth warriors who had been so terrifying moments ago suddenly found themselves facing something worse. The humans didn't hesitate or show fear. They advanced through the ship like a force of nature, and the Kryloth fell before them. Velma watched a human soldier face 3 Kryloth warriors in a corridor. The Kryloth opened fire with everything they had. The humans' shields absorbed the damage, flickering but holding. Then the human returned fire. 3 shots, 3 dead Kryloth. "They're fighting in our ship," Dr. Thelkor whispered. "Those are Deathworlders fighting in our corridors." "Those are our rescuers," Velma corrected him. The bridge door, which had been about to explode inward, suddenly went quiet. The Kryloth on the other side had stopped their cutting. Velma heard weapon fire in the corridor beyond, followed by silence. Then a voice spoke in Galactic Standard coming from outside the bridge. "Veltharan crew, this is Major Hyun-sik of the Terran Defense Force. The hostiles outside your bridge have been neutralized. Please open the door. You're safe now." Velma looked at her crew. They looked back at her, uncertainty written on every face. Then she made her decision. She walked to the bridge door controls and opened them. Standing in the corridor was something out of a nightmare. A massive suit of powered armor, covered in weapons and scorched from combat. Behind it, more armored figures stood guard. Between them lay the bodies of Kryloth warriors who would never threaten anyone again. The armored figure's helmet retracted, revealing a human face. Major Hyun-sik looked tired but calm. "Captain Velma, I presume?" "Yes," Velma said quietly. The human smiled. It was a gentle expression, completely at odds with the violence he had just committed. "It's good to meet you, Captain. Sorry we couldn't get here sooner." The navigation screen showed 2 possible routes. Captain Velma stared at both paths with her 3 eyes, each one reflecting the blue glow of the holographic display. The first route was short and safe. It cut straight through the Terran sectors and would save them 5 days of travel time. The second route wound through the dangerous Keswick Nebula, adding distance and risk to their journey. Velma chose the longer route without hesitation. She had been a merchant captain for 43 cycles, and in all that time she had never once entered human space. The Galactic Council had made their position clear. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating possible. Humans were unpredictable, aggressive, and terrifyingly resilient. They came from a planet that had tried to kill them in countless ways, and somehow they had survived and thrived. The stories about humans spread across every space station and trading hub in the galaxy. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. They could eat foods that were poison to others. Their world had gravity so strong that it would crush a Veltharan's bones within hours. They had predators that hunted for sport, weather systems that could level entire cities, and diseases that mutated faster than medical science could track them. And the humans themselves? They were said to be violent beyond reason, solving problems with force before trying diplomacy. They laughed at danger. They formed emotional bonds so intense that they would die for each other without thought. Some species whispered that humans were slightly insane, their minds shaped by a world that had forced them to be either crazy or dead. Velma wanted nothing to do with them. Course confirmed. Captain, her navigation officer reported, we'll reach the Keswick Nebula in 6 hours. Good, Velma replied. She walked across the bridge, her 4 legs moving with practiced grace. The Whisper of Tides was a fine ship, built for cargo and speed rather than combat. It served her well in the merchant business, carrying goods across the peaceful sectors of the galaxy. Behind her, Dr. Thelkor stood examining a datapad. The scientist was part of a delegation traveling to the Veltharan Science Directorate. He and his team carried crystallized data cores containing centuries of xenobiological research. The information was priceless, representing the life's work of hundreds of researchers. Thelkor looked up from his pad. Captain, I must commend your choice of routes. The Galactic Council's latest report confirms that human expansion into neighboring sectors has increased by 12% this cycle. Avoiding their space is simply prudent. Velma nodded. Thelkor had given several public speeches about the necessity of isolating humanity. He argued that humans were too dangerous to integrate fully into galactic society, not because they were evil, but because they were fundamentally different. They came from a world that had made them into something the rest of the galaxy couldn't fully understand. I've read your papers, Doctor, Velma said. You make compelling arguments. It's not personal animosity, Thelkor explained. I simply believe that some species are too different to coexist closely. Humans are apex predators from a death world. We are not. The gap is too wide. The hours passed quietly. The crew went about their duties with calm efficiency. They had made this run dozens of times before. The Keswick Nebula was technically neutral space, far from any major trade routes. Pirates occasionally used it as a hiding spot, but the Whisper of Tides had always passed through without incident. Velma was reviewing cargo manifests when the alarm sounded. The bridge exploded into activity. Her tactical officer's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, multiple contacts emerging from the nebula. Configuration matches Kryloth raiders. Velma's blood went cold. The Kryloth were the worst of the worst. They were pirates who showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and left no survivors. They raided for profit and killed for pleasure. The view screen flickered to life, showing 5 Kryloth vessels emerging from the swirling gases of the nebula. They were ugly ships, all mismatched parts and stolen technology. But they were heavily armed and built for violence. Shields up. Evasive maneuvers, Velma commanded. The Whisper of Tides tried to run, but merchant ships weren't built for escape. The Kryloth vessels were faster, their weapons more powerful. The first shot hit their rear shields, sending shudders through the entire ship. The second shot penetrated, damaging their main engines. Shields at 40%, the tactical officer shouted. Another barrage hit them. The lights flickered. Somewhere below, Velma heard explosions and screaming. The Kryloth weren't trying to disable them cleanly. They were simply overwhelming the ship with firepower. Shields failing. FTL drive is offline. We can't jump. Velma gripped her command chair. This was it. This was how she died. The Kryloth would board her ship, kill her crew, and steal everything of value. Dr. Thelkor and his priceless research would be lost forever. Captain, her communication officer said quietly, we need to send a distress signal. Do it. All frequencies. Send our coordinates to anyone who can hear us. The officer worked quickly, then looked up with an expression Velma couldn't quite read. Captain, I have response range estimates. The nearest Veltharan convoy is 7 hours away. Galactic peacekeeping is 4 hours out. And Velma knew there was more. The Terran Defense Fleet's 3rd Battalion is 42 minutes away. The bridge went silent. Everyone turned to look at Velma. 42 minutes. The humans could be here in 42 minutes. But that meant calling them. It meant inviting Deathworlders onto her ship. Dr. Thelkor stepped forward. Captain, no. We can hold out for 4 hours. The peacekeepers will come. Another explosion rocked the ship. The tactical officer's voice was tight with fear. "Captain, they're preparing boarding pods. We have maybe 10 minutes before they're inside." Velma looked at her crew. Young faces, old faces, all looking to her for leadership. She thought about the stories of human violence. Then she thought about the guaranteed violence of the Kryloth. She made her choice. Send the distress call to Terran Space. Include our exact coordinates and situation. Tell them we need immediate assistance. "Captain, please," Thelkor protested. "Doctor, sit down and be quiet," Velma said firmly. "I'd rather take my chances with humans than die with certainty to Kryloth raiders." The communication officer sent the signal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a simple acknowledgement ping came back, followed by 3 words in Galactic Standard. "Hold on. Incoming." Velma activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the captain. Human forces are en route. Estimated arrival in 40 minutes. All crew retreat to secure positions. Seal all internal bulkheads. If the Kryloth board us, stay hidden and stay alive until help arrives." The crew scattered. Velma remained on the bridge with her essential officers, watching as Kryloth boarding pods launched toward their ship. The pods attached to the hull with metallic clangs that echoed through the corridors. She could hear cutting torches beginning their work. The clock on her display counted down. 38 minutes until the humans arrived. 38 minutes of holding off Kryloth raiders with nothing but sealed doors and hope. The first bulkhead breach alarm sounded. The Kryloth were inside. Velma drew her sidearm, though she knew it would do little good. Around her, the bridge crew did the same. They had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All they could do was wait and pray that the Deathworlders arrived before it was too late. Yes, they were capable of terrible violence, but they were also capable of incredible kin. The journey to Starbase Meridian would take 3 days. With the whisper of tides damaged and limping along, the human fleet adjusted their speed to match. 6 warships escorted a single merchant vessel through space like an honor guard protecting royalty. Velma found it both humbling and surreal. On the first day, human engineers came aboard to work on the ship's critical systems. Velma expected them to take over, to push her crew aside and work alone. That wasn't what happened. Instead, the humans worked alongside the Veltharan technicians, asking questions and sharing knowledge. Engineer Bora was the team leader. She was young for a human, probably in her late 20s by their reckoning. She moved through the damaged engine room with confident familiarity, pointing out problems and suggesting solutions. "Your main plasma conduits are cracked in 3 places," she explained to Velma's chief engineer. "We can patch them temporarily, but you'll need full replacements at Meridian. The good news is your reactor core is intact. Whoever designed this ship built it tough." The Veltharan engineer, whose name was Telvor, watched her work with obvious fascination. "You understand our technology? Basic principles are the same across most species," Bora said. "Plasma containment, energy distribution, propulsion physics. The implementation varies, but the math is universal." She grinned. "Plus, I studied Veltharan engineering at the academy. Your ships are beautiful designs, elegant and efficient." "You studied our technology?" Telvor asked, surprised. "Of course. We study everyone's technology. How else do we learn?" Bora pulled out a diagnostic tool. "Can you hold this steady while I realign the magnetic containment field?" Telvor took the tool, and together they worked on the engine. Other humans worked with other Veltharan crew members throughout the ship. They shared techniques, compared methods, and solved problems together. The humans never acted superior or impatient. They treated the Veltharans as equals. Dr. Thelkor spent most of the first day watching the humans work. He followed them through corridors, observed their interactions, and took extensive notes on his datapad. Velma found him in the observation lounge late that evening, staring out at the human fleet. "What are you thinking, Doctor?" she asked. Thelkor didn't look away from the window. "I'm thinking that I've made a terrible mistake. For years I've argued that humans are too dangerous for close contact. I've studied every report, every incident, every piece of data the Council provided about them. And now I realize the data was incomplete. Biased even. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, they're violent when necessary. But they're also curious, cooperative, and kind. The reports left that part out." He finally turned to look at her. "Captain, I watched Engineer Bora spend 3 hours teaching Telvor about plasma containment theory. She didn't have to do that. The repairs could have been done faster if she'd just done it herself. But she took the time to teach him. to share knowledge freely. That bothers you. It contradicts everything I thought I knew. Humans are supposed to be aggressive isolationists who solve problems through violence. But they're not. He struggled for words. They're people. Complex, multifaceted people, just like us. On the second day, Lieutenant Kite invited several Veltheran crew members to have lunch in the Indomitables mess hall. Velma decided to go, partly out of curiosity and partly because she felt she should understand the people who had saved her ship. The mess hall was huge, designed to feed hundreds of crew members. The tables were built for human proportions, which meant they were uncomfortably tall for Veltherans, but someone had set up smaller chairs for the visitors. Human crew members filled the space, talking and eating with relaxed camaraderie. Kite met them at the entrance with a wide smile. "Welcome. I wasn't sure what Veltherans could eat, so I asked Dr. Sang-min. He said your digestive systems can handle most of our plant-based foods, so I've prepared a selection." The table was covered with dishes, some Velma recognized from her own culture, foods that the humans must have researched and prepared specifically for them. Others were human foods carefully chosen to be safe for Veltheran consumption. "This is too much," Velma said. "Hospitality is important to us," Kite replied. "On Earth, sharing food is how we build friendships. I hope that's not too presumptuous." They ate together and Kite talked about his life with infectious enthusiasm. He was a pilot, one of the youngest in the fleet, and he loved his job with obvious passion. He talked about flying, about visiting different worlds, about meeting new species. "Aren't you afraid?" Telvor asked. "Flying into combat, facing enemies who want to kill you?" Kite's smile faded a bit. "Of course I'm afraid. Fear is natural. Earth taught us that fear is survival instinct and ignoring it gets you killed. But being afraid doesn't mean you don't act. It means you act carefully with preparation and backup plans." "The reports say humans are fearless," Dr. Thelkor said. "The reports are wrong," Kite said firmly. "We're not fearless. We're just stubborn. Earth tried to kill us with predators, diseases, weather, and 1,000 other things. We survived by refusing to give up, not by being unafraid. There's a difference." Another human pilot joined them, a woman named Haiwan. She and Kite started talking about a recent training exercise. Their conversation full of technical jargon and good-natured teasing. Watching them, Velma realized something important. These weren't soldiers who lived for violence. They were professionals who trained hard because they understood the cost of failure. They joked and laughed and lived normal lives, but when duty called, they were ready. That afternoon, Velma was invited to the Indomitables bridge. Captain Tejo wanted to discuss the route to Meridian. When she arrived, she found him studying a star chart with Commander Jihai. "Captain Velma, thank you for coming," Tejo said. "We're approaching the official border of Terran space. I wanted to ask your permission before we cross." "My permission? It's your territory." "Yes, but you're the one entering it. I know this wasn't your intended destination. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the decision." Velma looked at the star chart. The border was clearly marked. Beyond it lay Terran space, the region of the galaxy that she had spent her entire career avoiding. 3 days ago, the thought of entering human territory would have terrified her. Now escorted by 6 human warships and treated with more respect than she had ever experienced, the fear had faded. "I trust you, Captain," she said simply. Tejo nodded. "Thank you. That means more than you know." Commander Jihai pulled up additional displays. "Once we cross the border, you'll start seeing more human activity. Trade convoys, patrol ships, civilian traffic. Meridian is one of our busiest starbases. I wanted to prepare you for what to expect." "Is it true that other species live there?" Velma asked. "About 30% of Meridian's permanent population is non-human," Jihai confirmed. "We have Veltheran technicians, Quillan traders, Mercen scientists, and representatives from about 20 other species. Some came for business. Some came for research. Some just wanted to see what human space was like." "And they stayed?" "Most of them, yes. Turns out we're not as scary as the Council makes us sound." Jihai smiled. "Well, we're scary when we need to be, but most of the time we're just trying to get along with our neighbors." That evening, Velma stood in the observation lounge of her own ship, watching the stars. Dr. Sang-min found her there. He had been working with the wounded crew members all day and he looked tired but satisfied. "Everyone's doing well," he reported. "Your people are strong. The injuries are healing faster than I expected." "Thank you for taking care of them," Velma said. Sang-min stood beside her, looking out at the stars. For a moment they were quiet. Then Velma asked the question that had been bothering her. Doctor, can I ask you something personal? Of course, how do you do it? How do you switch between being a healer and being part of a military force? I watched your soldiers kill Kryloth without hesitation. Then I watched you save my crew with equal dedication. How do you reconcile those two things? Sangmin thought for a moment before answering. Earth taught us that sometimes you need to be hard and sometimes you need to be soft. A doctor who can't handle violence will fail when violence is necessary. A soldier who can't show compassion will become a monster. We learn to be both because the universe requires both. Doesn't it tear you apart inside? Sometimes, he admitted. But we support each other. We talk about our experiences. We see counselors when we need to. Mental health is taken seriously in the Terran Defense Force. We understand that asking people to do hard things means helping them process those things afterward. Velma looked at him with new understanding. You're more complicated than the Council gives you credit for. Most people are, Sangmin said with a gentle smile. The Council prefers simple narratives. Humans are dangerous Deathworlders. That's easy to understand and easy to fear. But the truth is always more complex. Yes, we're dangerous, but we're also healers, teachers, artists, and scientists. We're parents who love our children and friends who support each other. We're people, with all the contradictions that implies. On the third day, they crossed into Terran space. Velma stood on her bridge, watching as human ships appeared on Tia.